and yet people who are hip deep in it and involved, is it that we don't understand it well enough? Is that we're not emotionally tied to the, I'm emotionally tied to the outcome of it, I feel like. I'm worried about it. I want Alaska to succeed. I want my kids to stay in the state and to find opportunity here for themselves. So, I would say that I'm invested in it, but is it a personal investment? Is it, I don't know. It's so frustrating to watch all this stuff and to see that these so-called simple answers are nothing more than, kind of a kicking the can down the road. In Persili's case, it's basically his simple answer is just to spend more. His simple answer is just to consume the PFD. Hell, consume the permanent fund itself. If that's all it takes to create a utopian society is just to have government spend all the money, that's his simple answer to that. Or the piece from Doug Tansey that talks about, it would be so easy to build a pipe. They've been trying to get somebody to buy into a pipeline for decades, to buy into an Alaska gas pipeline for decades. If it was that easy, these companies, these oil and gas exploration, development, production companies, they're all about making money, right? That's their mandate. And so if they saw the opportunity, they would jump at this. Just like they did when the pipeline, when oil was discovered at Prudhoe and the pipeline project up. We were inundated. If they saw that same type of opportunity, they'd be all over this. And yet, as Brad pointed out, they can't even scrounge up $50 million in private investment to complete the final design. There's not even a company that'd be like, yeah, I'd speculate with $50 million to figure out what that's worth for an equity stake. It's gone on too long. I'm a huge proponent of an Alaska gas line. I really am. But I also understand that it has to economically work out for the parties involved. Oh, man. It's so frustrating to watch. So frustrating. But I guess that's our lot in life. Yeah. And Brian in the chat room says 8 billion. See, when I was talking about the state would be on the hook for 80% of the subsidy and it's a $10 billion project. But what about the overruns? What about the other stuff, right? 8 billion seems optimistic, especially in light of the inevitable politics which will emerge from the deal. I agree. But even at 8 billion, the only way the state could pay for that is to either draw or guarantee the money from the permanent fund. Right? They'd have to have some kind of state loan or something that was backed by the collateral, essentially, of the permanent fund itself. And at 8 billion, I can't. What is the math on that? Do I have a calculator? Can I even do a calculation here on what 8 billion is divided by? Let's see, 1, 2, 3. That's 800,000. That's 8 million. That's 800 million. That's 8 billion, right? Well, 9 zeros. Divide that by 750,000 Alaskans. I can't even do the math on that. That's only $12,000 per Alaskan. Come on, right? $12,000 per Alaskan. That can't be right. It's astonishing. All right, well, we're gonna take a break. And when we come back, I got some headlines, including the latest on the organization in the House and the final numbers from the recount on both the ranked choice voting ballot measure and the Wasilla House race. Yeah, there was a recount there as well. We got a lot coming up. We'll return here in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Okay, so I see everybody saying that the sound finally came back. I told you it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. So there you go. Let me pull that down. We didn't need that anymore. Okay. Oh, yeah. We can't hear Natasha. Yep. So the number was right. I was right. It's about 12. It's about just under it's $12,000. So no music? No music? Oh man. I was messing with everything in the world. Well, that should be music. That should be music. You should hear the music. Did you hear Natasha? I mean, did you hear Natasha? That's my question to you guys. All right. Chris Story's coming up at the end of the hour this morning. And we're going to be talking about the recount, and you can hear me type. Clickety clackety clickety clack. Okay. All right. You can hear me type, but you still haven't said if you could hear Natasha or the music. No, Natasha? What? You guys aren't hearing that music in the background? That's disappointing. Disappointing to say the least. Let's see. Now you should hear it. Okay. Yeah, I'd made a change in the background. So there we go. Okay. So we're all good. I'm sorry. When he said Natasha, I said
the greed and the entitlement is astounding to me. I just don't fathom it.
Just because I thought that was funny. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. No disembodied voice busting on me either. No, nobody out there giving me a hard time. It's the miracle of technology. Rick says, yep, you're right, Mike. Nothing exciting going on here. And it's going to be a couple of years before anything happens. I mean, we've got to see we've got to start with some long-term thinking. Right? I mean, if this is a crisis, and they keep saying that it is a crisis, the gas issue, we've got to get on it now, because if they're saying we're going to start seeing a decline in 2027, which is just over 2 years away now, 2027, it will take us that long to stand up any kind of importation setup or permits, schemes, hardware. I mean, whatever, gas, liquefaction, gasification plants. I mean, it's going to take us a while to get all that stuff set up. It's going to take that 2 years. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. Frank says, for you to buy, do you really think oil companies are paying the state tax? No, it's the consumer who invests in the oil company's products. In short, you and I have invested money into the permanent fund. Yeah, I mean, we have. I mean, not only that, all that money that they took out of our PFDs, and then later on they put money into inflation proof. That was our monies that they put back into the permanent. So we've invested in the permanent fund in multiple ways. Absolutely. Absolutely. What do you have your first snowfall? There's snow here on the ground right now. There was 2 feet of snow when I got here. There's almost none now, but there was 2 feet, 18 inches when I got here. Lots of rain. It's 43 degrees right now outside the state. So it's a whole different deal. All right, we got to go. Let's jump into it. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. Let's do this thing.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
Welcome back to the program. Sorry, I got so caught up in my thoughts in the first segment. I forgot to mention, of course, that today is Tuesday, and that means Chris Story will be joining us in hour 2. And we'll be talking with him about positivity. We're going to get a little life coaching lesson from Chris. We need that. We need that around here. We're going to do that here in just a bit. But before we get into that, let's hit a few of the headlines to see exactly what is going on around here. Let's talk briefly first here, I guess, about, I'm going to close all these windows because I don't need to talk about any of that anymore. Let's talk a little bit about the recount. The results of ballot measure 2 are now in. The ballot measure was counted. They did the full count, and they showed that out of almost 341,000 ballots cast, the repeal measure failed by 743 votes. They found 6 extra votes that voted in favor or against the repeal. So it's total of 6 votes different from the certified results. That means that the repeal measure failed by 49.88% to 50.12%. So still a 0.22 margin or 0.20, I guess 0.20 margin, whatever it is. Not by much. Yeah, not by much. 2.2 margin. 0.22 was the final count. Now the good news is that Philip Izon, the guy who launched and started the repeal initiative, said that he's going to try again to abolish ranked choice voting and open the primaries. He said to the ADN by text message on Monday that he planned to soon submit an initiative petition to Nancy Dahlstrom, and that's the first step to get another repeal measure on the 2026 ballot. So we'll be back in 2 years with another attempt to repeal ranked choice voting. I mean, I think the biggest lessons we learned at this point was that the Republican candidates have to be the adults in the room and step out. If like the whole Nick Begich, Nancy Dahlstrom thing, where I mean, you can't have 2 candidates running against it. We've kind of found the secret of the whole jungle primary component and then the ranked choice voting component. I mean, if it doesn't get repealed and we've learned the lesson and we can use the lesson, then that's good. I'm okay with that. I mean, I don't necessarily like the jungle primaries, but I mean, we could live with it as long as all the candidates are adults about it and realize that if somebody else has got the, more votes than they did in the primary and they're on the final ballot, that they need to step off. I mean, again, I think I don't know Nancy Dahlstrom very much, but I do appreciate and respect her decision to step out of that race. That's how Nick Begich won. Because, so we've learned something at least from this. Maybe in 2 years we can repeal it. But I again, I'm not going to hold my breath. $15 million spent on the ranked choice voting on the anti-repeal side. It's kind of hard to overcome that kind of money. That's just kind of how it is. It's a little tough to overcome that kind of money. Also in the recount is the Wasilla House race. That was between Republican Alexi Moore and Steve Menard. They were only separated by 12 votes. 12 votes in the certified election counts. And Menard, he asked for a recount. Now she's leading by 131 votes. So Alexi Moore going to be the Republican representative from House District 28 out in the Valley. And good for her. Good for her. And I guess that's behind. We now officially, here we are on the 10th of December. We now officially have the election behind us. I mean, it only took a month. It only took a month. And then good news in the House, the Republican House Caucus finished organizing on Saturday. And with 19 members, it has elected Mia Costello as the minority leader, Kathy Tilton as the minority whip. And then it put a bunch of folks on the finance committee, Will Stapp of Fairbanks, from Frank Tomaszewski of Fairbanks, Jamie Allard of Eagle River, Delana Johnson of Palmer, and Representative-elect Jeremy Bynum of Ketchikan. So they are all on the new House minority. And then there's a whole bunch of other ones. It looks like Judiciary is going to be Sarah Vance, Mia Costello, and Jubilee Underwood. Resources is going to be Dan Sadler and George Rauscher, Julie Colomb, and Bill Elam. Education is going to be chaired by Jubilee Underwood, Rebecca Schwenke, and Bill Elam. Health and Social Services is Mike Prax, Julie Colomb, and Schwenke. State Affairs is Sarah Vance, Kevin McCabe, and Alexi Moore. McCabe is in transportation along with Tilton and Moore. Prax and Justin Ruffridge both got community and regional affairs. So there's a lot. Looks like a lot of these people got multiple committee seats, which is interesting. It goes on to the ADN actually has an article talking about the organization, and they talked to Justin Ruffridge, who said he was one of the 9 minority Republican members who put their names forward as a candidate for the 5 minority finance committee seats, and he was not selected. He said, the Kenai Peninsula has not had a representative on the finance committee for 2 years, and I thought it would be a bad decision for us to have no representation for another 2 years. Ultimately, that argument must not have won the day. He goes on to talk a little bit about some of this could be the ramifications of his willingness to vote across party lines, including last year when he was one of 4 House Republicans to vote in favor of overriding the governor's veto on education. He said then they pointed out that he was largely snubbed in committee assignments. He was only given a seat on the Community and Regional Affairs Committee, while many of his colleagues were given 3 committee assignments each. He said, it's no secret that I don't always follow the 100% direction of the caucus as a whole. Last session, I took a couple of votes that were different from other folks, but I also think that they represented my community well, which, again, that's the point of a non-binding caucus. That's what's going to happen. People are going to vote their conscience or what they think their constituencies want. So good for him. I mean, he got reelected, so he's the guy. And apparently his community is happy with him up in the Kenai. So, okay. I mean, that's where we are. He's happy to continue on. We'll see where this comes out, but brand new minority has now been set up. Now, there was some talk. The majority has been heavily shopping into the minority members, trying to get a couple of them to flip, because their 21 member majority is super slim. but they weren't able to do it. They weren't able to peel off anybody from the House minority at this point. Bryce Edgman is a little hopeful, though. He said, it wouldn't be the first time there was a change in a caucus makeup as a session neared and we get underway. And my hope is that we'll be able to continue those conversations and see where it goes. So they're going to keep trying to entice and split some people off from the 19-member Republican minority in the House. But I think they're pretty strong. I mean, even Ruffridge, who understood, has taken some stances that maybe people didn't agree with or understood. He's still standing strong. And I appreciate him for that. I appreciate him. I appreciate Will Stapp was talking about, going into the, he would be open to that idea. I'm glad that he didn't. It's good to see these Republican members standing strong in their rights there. So that's good stuff right there. And we're going to see how this all plays out when it's all said and done. But it's going to be a very, very tight year in the House with only 21. If one representative vacillates or decides to hold the rest of them hostage over the vote, that'll make for some interest. That'll be an interesting day. Just put it that way. That will be an interesting day. We'll see what it is. What was the other thing I wanted to mention? The capital, Alaska's capital, Juneau. I mean, I've only been there one time. As an adult, I've only been there one time. But probably won't be going to the Capitol building if I ever get to Juneau again, because they are now putting in TSA-style screening at the buildings. So they've decided, the Legislative Affairs Council decided to put all this together, and they said, we need it. We need security. We're not safe down here. So all carried items will be screened by X-ray. Weapons, firearms, explosives, and knives, except pocket knives with blades under 3 inches, are prohibited in not only the building, the Capitol complex, but the Terry Miller building, the Assembly building, and others deemed dangerous by security. Service animals will be visually inspected. They're going to require screening. I mean, how much is this going to cost? How much is it going to cost? You just can't walk into your Capitol anymore. You still can do that in Wyoming and Montana, but I guess we're one of the last of the breed here, and that's unfortunate. But I just thought I'd point that out, that if you're planning on go to Juneau, apparently don't go strapped, because that's a bad idea. That's a bad idea. All right, we got to go. We'll return. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more right after this.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Got audio. We got this. You guys can hear all that stuff. Yeah, we want to be groped. We want to be groped. Don't bring your fingernail clippers to the Capitol. Oh, man. We'll have to see what happens here. All right, let me... whoops. What the heck happened there? I don't... what? Okay. All right, let me see if we can get Chris Story on the phone here and see what we can come up with. There we go, right there. Let's give him a call, see if he's ready to go.
Well, did it work?
It worked. It worked amazing. It worked the
Nice.
first time. How you doing, my friend?
It's a good sign. Doing well. How about you?
It's a beautiful day in paradise, 43 degrees or something earlier. So, I mean, I feel like
Perfect.
that's nice. It's better than 40 below. That's all I could say right now. Better than 40 below.
Good show.
You all ready for your big Tuesday morning debut here on the program?
Sir, yes, sir.
Do you think of this as show prep for your show that happens later this afternoon?
I'm always thinking, Michael. It's just like you happen to be interrupting me now, and then sometimes, yeah, I do. I will regurgitate some of these ideas that we talk about on our 1 o'clock program.
Well,
Sometimes I'll wait 2-3 days go by, and then I'll think about it. I'll say something about it on Thursday.
well, you know what they say, everything is show prep when you're in radio, right? I mean,
All of life.
everything is show prep.
Standing in line at the coffee shop is.
Yeah, well, that's definitely some show prep there. That's it for sure. All right, what are we going to talk about today, Mr. Story?
True grit.
True grit. Okay, we're going to talk about Rooster Cogburn. True grit. Okay, got it. I'm all about that. All right, well, hold the line for a second. Let me go back and see what other kind of comments people have been saying since we went through the recount of the votes and we got everything else going up here. As long as you have your calculator open, said Brian, how much did the pro ranked choice voting spend per vote? Well, that would be $15 million, right? $15 million divided by 330,000. So they spent $45 a vote, almost $46 a vote for ranked choice voting, Brian, because it was 330, just under 331,000 votes cast. So $45 a vote for that money, for that outcome. Wow, that's some really, really big deal. Let's see. Now to retire Murkowski, says Greg. We'll see what happens there. Kim said it was Nancy Dahlstrom that messed up the language on ballot measure number 2. How so, Kim? How so? What do you mean? Kim goes on to say, he said she did the language that worded it in a way that was so confusing, almost like I did hear about this. Phil Izon had submitted the explanation of the ballot, and then she apparently, or the Department of the Division of Elections, rewrote it, didn't allow them to write the sponsor statement or explanation in the right way. I heard something about this, but I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen anything else on this, but yeah, I understand that that there was some changes from what Phil Izon and company put on the explanation of the ballot measure, and that it got a little confusing. I wasn't confused because I never read the language of the sponsor statement. I just knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to repeal it, so I voted to repeal it. That's how it was. Terry, you really should tell me how you feel. Ruffridge is a liar and a cheat. The House does not trust him. I don't know. I don't take that from him. I don't get that feel from him, but maybe the House doesn't trust him. Maybe that was one of the reasons why. If he was going to vote his own way, then maybe it's a punishment. Maybe it is. It's very possible. Barbara Haney said, with the TSA style security at the Capitol, the lobbyists are going to get a pre-check type thing. I hope you're wrong about that. I hope that's just a joke, but probably not. They probably not at that point. All right, we're going to jump into this here. We're going to talk about True Grit with Chris Story. You guys all ready to go? Get things ready to rock and roll. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Like, subscribe, ring the bell. Let's do this thing. Here we go. Okay, let's continue on. Chris Story is our guest, the man from Homer, my neighbor. He's here to do a little bit of positivity with us here to talk a little bit on life coaching and a little attitude adjustment. This is my weekly attitude adjustment. Chris, of course, is a realtor, well-known realtor. He's an author. He is a radio show host, podcaster, potter, all around good dude. Today we're going to talk about true grit. Hello, my friend. What do you got for me? I'm a big fan of Rooster Cogburn as much as the next guy. Is that what we're talking about, or you got something a little different?
I don't know what you just said. Was it a movie?
Rooster
talking about?
Rooster Cogburn. Yeah, True Grit is a movie. John Wayne playing the Marshal Rooster Cogburn. The name of the movie was True Grit. I mean,
I'll check it out.
A remake later on with Jeff Bridges. I mean, but yeah, it's a fantastic movie. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead. True Grit.
Yeah, I know it's a movie. I knew that, and I just don't care. I can't bring myself to watch some of those movies that are classics. Maybe one day I will. Maybe we will roll up to each other in the home, and you'll force me to watch some of those movies.
I'll put you in a headlock. Yeah, I'll put you in a headlock. We'll watch Rooster Cogburn together.
Oh,
yeah.
Too soon.
Too soon.
But truly, I was in a couple things been crossing my mind here over the last couple of days. I had a wonderful experience at the Nutcracker Fair. I got to meet and see hundreds of people, and it was just wonderful. And one guy came up to me, and I thought this represented true grit. He came up to me and he said, I'm going to buy one of your books. And I said, okay, I'm here to sell books. Let's go. And he said, as he was paying, he said, I want to understand what half of the country thinks that I cannot figure out. I said, well, hold on. What do you mean? He says, well, after this last election, I do not understand half of my countrymen. And I'm paraphrasing. I do not understand what you're thinking. And I said, well, I have to tell you something, to be quite honest. You just picked up a copy of a novel with which you will not learn how I think about the world. You will learn it's nothing more than entertainment. But if you really want to know what I think, here, pick up this book over here called The Backyard Millionaire. It tells you how I think about life in general. But I thought it took real grit for this guy that I've known a long time to walk up face to face and say, I don't get it. You think so different than me. I really want to understand. And it's about the second sincere encounter I've had post November 5th election, whereby somebody on the opposite side of the political or whatever spectrum you want to call it than myself has literally asked, I don't get it. And it takes a lot of courage, I think, to stand up and say, okay, all right, hold on. You think differently than I do. Help me understand what's in your mind. And it reminded me of a quote it's actually out of Marcus Aurelius Antonius's Meditations, which was just a journal that he kept for himself, never intended to be published. But thank goodness it was published, because he wrote in it, true greatness lies in the consciousness of an honest purpose in life, founded on a just estimate of yourself and everything else, on frequent self-examinations and steady obedience to the rule which you know to be right, without troubling yourself about what others may think or say. And I think that idea of that, you and I've talked about it many times over the past 10 years on these Tuesday explorations we have about self-examination and how important it really is, whether you be the victor or the victim, whatever you see yourself in. When you begin to uncover the fact that you may not know something or know as much as you think you know, or as Ronald Reagan said, the problem with my friends on the left, it is not that they're what do you say? Not that they're wrong, but what they think is wrong, or so much of what they know just ain't so. And it's that idea of being willing to say, I need to reflect on this. True greatness lies, I think, in your ability to self-examine and to be sincere and have a purpose in life. And to do so, sometimes you have to say, I don't get it. Help me understand. What do you think? Or how do you think? Because it's so different than where I come from.
It's interesting that this happened to you, because I know that there's been a lot of discussion amongst some of the talking heads about, the reflection after the election of those on the left, that there hasn't been a lot of self-reflection, and that those that have, verbalized their reflection publicly have been kind of excoriated for, well, of course we were right. Why would you even think that we were wrong? But they were asking questions like, well, why don't people identify with it? Why don't people agree with us? Why don't they see things? And that really is what I was going on about the first segment of the show today. Why doesn't the legislature see the same problems that we see, or see the same solutions that we see? And so sometimes it's a question of asking yourself and putting yourself in the other person's shoes and saying, how do we do that? I too would applaud anybody that would come up and say, explain to me how you think, because I just don't get it. It does. It takes internal courage, because now you're facing your own, it's critical thinking. You're facing your own biases. And that's what, that causes a lot of cognitive dissonance in your own mind when you're starting to face your own biases. But you have to kind of do that. You have to we talk a lot on the show about self-reflection. It's the true basis of how you better yourself in the long run. But some people just, they don't have I don't know if it's the mechanism or the will or the courage to look at their own beliefs and say whether or not they, why do I believe a certain way, or how do you believe, and why do you believe completely opposite of me? I think that's an important step to take in your journey.
I agree. And I love that he wrote this line, Marcus Aurelius wrote this line, true greatness. And then it makes you wonder, well, wait a minute, what is greatness? And there is no one answer. And I could say, oh, it takes real grit. Like, that's true grit to come up with somebody that you're diametrically opposed to on almost every issue, as far as you can tell, and say, I want to know what you think. Now, in part, it might be that they want to know, do they really seek to understand, or just to influence, or, find out how they could better manipulate the system next time around? I'm not sure. But I take them as sincere in their word. And the true greatness, I was watching, and don't judge me for this, Michael, but I'm a big Coldplay fan. And Dick Van Dyke and Chris Martin's the lead singer of Coldplay, they did a music video together. And I have no idea why or how this came about, but I just randomly stumbled upon it. And Chris Martin's playing one of his great tunes, and Dick Van Dyke is featured in this. He's 99 years old, and it just came out just a couple of months ago. And soon to be 100 years old, and he's actually still dancing, very cognizant, very entertaining and engaging still. And I'm thinking to myself, now that's success, right? Nearly living to 100, and where is it? Well, wait a minute, maybe it's his incredible Malibu home, this gorgeous home that Dick Van Dyke lived. Maybe that's meaning and success. Or is it the awards and the accolades and his fame and fortune? And then you realize at the end of the video, just towards the end, he is surrounded by what looks like about 30, maybe 35 people, varying in age from a young toddler to his adult, well-aged children, and then adult grandchildren, and probably even some adult great-grandchildren. And that's when you realize, okay, I think that's what it is. Greatness for Dick Van Dyke is maybe not even longevity, but maybe the blessing of the people around him and surrounding him. And do they all agree on every issue? I'll bet not. I bet you there's a lot of dissension. But one thing they can all agree on is they all love that man, and that he is at the epicenter of their lives. And they themselves will be at the epicenter of their progeny on down the line. And I think truly, if we could remember that as we examine and explore these political issues where we're hyper divided, or sure appears that we are, true greatness lies in the consciousness of honest purpose in life. And isn't at the end of it all, family.
So, so you're saying that greatness could have an individual definition for each person then. Some people it's family, some people it's success, some people it's fame, some people. So is it dependent, or is it strictly family in your mind?
Yeah, I don't think there's one single answer, but it sure is to me every time I'm really faced with a challenge or a crisis of conscience or whatever, a real crisis in life, always and truly, it does appear to me that greatness is an awareness and a gratitude for who you have in your life. It almost is never what you have, almost always who. And for some of us that are blessed with great big families, it's family. Those that maybe don't have, by extension, that much family around them, it's who in their friendship and who loves them and who they love. But truly, that's my answer, but it may not be yours. But I think if you really do this self-examination as Marcus Aurelius recommends and prescribed for himself, I think it's worth copying and really coming down to this idea that we can be divided, we can be, but we are one family, and who you have in your life matters much more than what.
So this self-reflection, what does it begin with? I mean, this just gentleman came up to you. Obviously, the impetus for him was the election and things that happened there. But
Mhm.
what is, if we want to have some of that self-reflection and look at how we're thinking and how other people are thinking, and have the ability to be humble enough to go up and say, explain to me, what you're thinking on that. Where do we need to start on that?
I think we take a page out of Marcus Aurelius's own book, which is to say, journal, write a letter. Maybe it's not even a journal page, but it's a letter to somebody. Maybe write what and really reflect on the page. What are you thinking? What do you think? What do you resolve? How do you see the world? Another guy came up to me, and he was reading all the backs of my books as I displayed them for sale this weekend. And he took his reader glasses off and he kind of looked aside for a second. He said, I've always thought I might like to write a book. And I said, then you should. In fact, you need to. And he goes, nah, nobody will read it. And I said, hold on a second. What do you mean nobody will read it? Can you imagine if your grandfather or great grandfather had left a book and you could have some insight as to how he thought of the world? Or what if he had just left a series of journals whereby you could read and see the world through his eyes, or your grandmother's eyes, or a great aunt or uncle, and really examine the world through their eyes? And I think we get to do the same thing when we're journaling in the moment. And that's all Marcus Aurelius and Aurelius was doing when he wrote, quote, meditations. These were meditations for himself. It was his form of meditation, was self-reflection on the page. I picked up a used copy a number of years ago at the old Inlet bookshop, and it was just lying there. Cost me $1.50. And I'm telling you, to be able to have the insight from this great leader's mind from a couple thousand years ago is really something. But what about your own mind, and what about your own thoughts? And Joan Didion, great novelist, said, I don't know what I think about something until I write about something.
Right.
And I feel that, and that might work for you too.
Yeah, no, or speak about it, or depending on how you learn, or how, what your mechanism is. All right, Chris. Well, we got about just 90 seconds here or so. So let's wrap this up. If we want to have true grit, reflection is important. Give us your final thoughts.
I'll give you a woman named Sarah, who I do not know, introduced herself to me over the weekend. And she said, oh, I listen to your program, Chris. And she goes, I wonder sometimes, do you think about what you say? Because I've been thinking about that all weekend. Like, yes, I think so. And but then sometimes, can't we think a little too much? So don't get stuck in the rut. Whereas Zig Ziglar always said, don't get baked in the squat. Get out there, live life. This is an incredible season, and I just wish you all the best. And if it means anything to you, what I just said, what Michael and I just talked about, maybe pick up a blank page today and jot down some ideas. And remember, we're all one family here in America.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think it's important. I always mean to journal, but I just never have really gotten into it much. So maybe it's something that I need to look deeper into. But anyway, Chris Story, thank you, my friend, for coming on board and joining us. As always, it's a pleasure to speak with you, and thanks for lifting us up today. We needed that.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, folks, we are out of time. We got more coming up tomorrow, Wednesday edition of the Michael Duke Show. Be kind, love one another, live well, have true grit. We'll see you tomorrow, folks. Have a great day. Okay, my friends. Well, as always, it was a pleasure to have you on board with us today and be part of it. We appreciate that. We look forward to talking to you again tomorrow. And we're going to have Mike Shower on, maybe somebody else. We'll continue on with that stuff. Thanks for sticking with me even through the technical difficulties this morning. And we will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.